welcome to Cast Conversations. Today I have Richard Clem and Jacob Reed, who are both our male leads in Terms of Endearment, which is coming up at Lord Fairfax Community College at the William H. McCoy Theater on May 20th through the 22nd and May 27th through the 29th. So you have 2 weekends to get your tickets and to come and support local theater, community theater, and wonderful actors and talent. I'm going to bring Richard and Jacob on in a little bit. Richard is playing Garrett Breedlove, who is a pretty raunchy astronaut. I think that's the kind and polite way of saying that. And then we have Jacob Reed, who is playing Flatton, who, believe it or not, I love my Jacob Reed. I was his teacher when he was a teenager, but in this role, I despise his character. And they both do a great job portraying the lover and or husband of both of our female leads, Paige Yulovich, who plays Aurora, and Bo Bostic, who plays Emma. And I'm going to go ahead and bring them on so we can talk very casually about their roles, about the show, and what it's like during this process. So welcome, Richard and Jacob. Yay! How are you guys?
Wonderful.
Always good.
Always good. Always good. So we're back in the saddle with rehearsals. For most folks that know, we had to postpone the show that was supposed to go up in March, and now we're going up in May. And so how does it feel? I know, Richard, you've already been back, and Jacob Reed is recovering from being sicky, so he'll be coming back and joining us next week. But how does it feel to be back at it, Richard?
It's strange you asked that, because this is the second show in succession that we started work on the production, big pause, come back and start doing it again. It's actually, this one's a lot shorter, so it ended up being, and I think you saw that as well, we didn't really lose that much in the time frame that we were out. I mean, it picked up like we were, just ready to start in on Tech Week as far as I'm concerned. I mean, so it's not been too big an issue with the delays, at least for me.
Awesome. Jacob, are you excited to come back?
Itching. I was already ready to do it before the postpone, and it's just toying with me that we got postponed, but it's all for all the right reasons, that we had to hold. So I'm much more excited that we have all the necessary things to get the show back on. We can do it, especially with the cast we have, to do it to the best of our abilities.
And we have a stellar cast. It's freaking phenomenal. When people come see the show, I'm hoping that they will see that it is not community theater acting. No offense to community theater acting, but it is very professional method, technique that is on the stage. And it's been an honor to direct both of you in this show. So please tell us a little bit about your characters. We'll start with Richard. And you go ahead and tell us who you are in the show.
I am Garrett Breedlove, which is really a departure for me, because he's an interesting character. I don't think I've played anyone like him before. He is a retired NASA astronaut, having, apparently walked on the moon, been very, very well-known NASA personality. So it's one of those things, if you understand the mentality or the environment that the astronauts work in, they're very high-level functioning people. And him being retired as he is, in top of being pretty much an alcoholic, creates some weird situations, and how he gets himself into these things, I really don't know. So it's adding a level of carefree environment onto the kind of personality he has from the beginning. So it's like, how do we do this? So it's an interesting mix.
Yeah, he is definitely a character that you're like, I want to despise him, but I kind of like him and love him all at the same time. So I adore Garrett Breedlove and his raunchiness. But you end up finding that he does have some soft spots to him, right?
He does, and I think it's indicative of the whole show. The first part of it, I think Paige and Bo in their last little segment they did with you hit on it pretty well. In that the first act is very lighthearted. There's a lot of banter back and forth between pretty much all the characters and whoever they're working from on stage. But when you get past intermission and start getting into the second act, everything tends to start. The serious side of things start to emerge and end up taking over the rest of the show. So yeah, there's two sides to this show, and it's definitely worthwhile. The comedy part of it is something I'm having fun doing, especially with Paige, because I like leaving her with not knowing what's going to happen next. And the second part of getting Garrett to come out a little bit more. I think part of that has to do as well with the fact that the time setting for this piece, there's a very big shift from the beginning into the end, 15-year span in there. So there's a lot that can happen in that time frame. So it lends itself well to how the whole plot and whole flow of the show tends to go.
And Jacob, your character is Flap, and I don't know if you saw the first cast conversations with Paige and Bo, but we can't help but say it like Flap. It just has its own sound. So tell us about your character.
Flap Horton is just an unlikable dude. Wimp on the inside doesn't like to show it. Likes to show that he's much more professional and very organized, but it's just not as it seems most of the time. Just a very, self-centered, narcissistic character that seems to outdo himself as the play progresses. I feel like you think one segment is bad, and then another comes on, and you're just like, this guy. It was super tough in the beginning to learn the character, because I've played some pretty unlikable characters, but some of them, for the most part, had redeemable qualities. So to play a character that I feel like is a complete opposite of what I'm used to. But as we've gotten more used to with the cast and the script, I feel like I've really gotten into the groove with how this guy acts and what drives him and what he cares about at the end of the day, especially when, like Rich said, the second act comes around and this serious weight is on other characters' shoulders. He really shows his true colors, even if he's not trying to. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's very interesting. I was sitting here thinking earlier today that both of your characters never interact with each other. So Garrett doesn't interact with Flap at all in the show. Flap solely in Act 1 only interacts with Emma, who plays his wife, and same with Aurora and Garrett. Except Garrett, you have one moment with Emma, but beyond that, that's it. That's it. And I think it's very interesting for the playwright adaptation and also the original screenplay adaptation to be so polarized with the sides of who interacts with who. Aurora really is the only character that interacts with everybody. So how does it feel being on? There's not that many plays out there. So how does it feel basically interacting with only one other character? Richard, you get to interact with Corinna Taylor, who plays, we call it the slut role.
and the doctor later on as well. So it does have a little more breadth as far as interaction is concerned. It's indicative of an ensemble play. There's not going to be a lot of opportunities, especially with the cast is 6 characters.
Right.
There's not a lot of interaction to it, really, if with only that many characters. But it's not like, as you said, I don't think there's a single time where all of us are on the stage at one time. It's no. These come on, these go off, so that it does help to keep you focused a little more on the interaction with the character that you're playing opposite. being able to do that. So in that regard, yeah, it does help. But it's just the nature of the beast. This is what it is. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a different form of theater, I think, with that screen adaptation to the stage. It's a completely different type of theater. And typically we do heavy ensemble pieces. So this is a little bit different where it is a heavy ensemble piece, but the ensemble itself does not really interact with each other's characters. And I say ensemble piece because it literally, the show thrives off of the energy that each of you give to your characters in order to further tell the story. Does that make sense? What about you, Jacob? You only see Bo.
And the few lines I have to the doctor staff and her mother.
Yeah.
I love it. It. You said it first. So used to in my first beginning of acting, so used to doing like ensemble pieces with big casts and interacting with characters, and we're all going off each other's energy. But it reminds me of when I did forensics, that like solo energy, or I mean in forensics you either it's yourself or you have another person if you do duos. But you have all these, you get to stay on your toes with all this energy and characters that are in that piece, because forensics usually has multiple characters that you play. So it just reminds me of that, you have to learn each character without relying on your character's lines and who they interact with. So it's cool to see every night that we did rehearsals how every other actor would do lines differently and what they would do, because it really starts to give you the sense of what's driving their characters. And even though we don't interact, it still feels like the energy is driving the plot along with the characters that we are.
Right, absolutely. And that's so important. I made a joke because Bo, bless her heart, when we first came back, we didn't have Paige or you for rehearsal. And so it's just Bo on stage a lot of the time talking to herself. And but the second night Paige came back, and Bo had this incredible energy that I hadn't seen before. I don't know if you agree with that or not, Richard, but it was intense and incredible. And I made the snide comment. I was like, yo, when Jacob comes back, is he going to mess up this flow? You got this great energy with no one there. So, just a fair warning for when you come back. So, we have an incredible ensemble. We mentioned Corinna Taylor, who plays, we call it the slut roles because she's playing girl interest for Garrett Breedlove, Richard's character, and then she also plays a girl's interest for Flat, Jacob Reed's character, and the best friend of Emma, Patsy. And then we have Paul Martin, who is playing Dr. Mays, and Rudyard, and Eric Lee Santival, who is stepping in for Paul for the last two performances of our run. And like you guys said, the energy is pretty authentic, and neat is what is the word that comes to mind. It's smooth, it's genuine, it's authentic, and it's just gorgeous energy. And that's without lights, that's without sound effects, that's just the actors in rehearsal telling the story. So tell me what you as an actor have received, if anything, from the roles that you are portraying.
Jacob first. I'm gonna let him.
That's when you go like this. Nose goes.
What I've received? That was a question. What energy I've received? What
have you received? What have you learned? Or what can you take away from this experience?
With us basically just, for a couple months having, we didn't get props until we were supposed to put the show on, especially with the light situation. I mean, it just builds the voice and the character, and like it was fun to just bond with because some of these actors I've never acted with, or this is my second time with Richard, or my third time with Paige. Everybody else was brand new, so it's other than Corinna. Sorry, me and Corinna have been in multiple. Yeah. But it's fun to. It's one of my favorite things, other than when an audience comes in, I get to share that emotion with an audience. It's fun to share the emotion with the cast and grow and see how they take as actors, because sometimes I can either take something home from that, or I can help coach some other, even if I don't know it. So it's just the process of learning and coaching.
Great. Richard?
And again, I'm more or less in the similar situation with Jacob. This is my first stage performance that I've done with Selah. So all of these people I have never had any interaction with before. So, and having done community theater before, you get a sense of the energy comes from working with different people in different roles, at least for me. So it's makes it it's one of the things. It's reflex action. You know what the character's personality is supposed to be. You know what the environment is. You know what the situation is. How do you artistically translate that situation with the lines you have with the character that you're dealing with someone you've never worked with before? That's always exciting for me, because then it's a new dynamic that you've not seen, and it challenges you as an artist to come up. Okay, how should I respond to this? Given the character and the context, how should I respond to this to whatever the situation is? I like it. I like the dynamic. That's why I spend a lot of time trying to work with other actors and working in other venues to see, just to learn more from me, because it's always it's not just every production, it's every rehearsal, every show, every time that you run this, it's the dynamic changes. It may be subtly, but it does change. So it's still one of those things where you still learn from this. Every time that you go out on that stage, you put your feet out on those boards, you're going to take something away from it every single time. So that's to me, that's the most exciting thing about it.
I always tell my students, and sometimes my adult actors too, that the beauty of theater is that it's ever evolving and ever changing, as far as your interaction with actors, the different type of techniques that are out there, technology added on to that. So it's kind of this craft where you can own it, but not at the same time, which makes it fun and exciting each time you go into a new role or new part or even a new theater company. I love this story because it doesn't, as much as people who know anything about Terms of Endearment, they know about Shirley MacLaine and Deborah Winger and their relationship playing mother and daughter. And a lot of people think that it's focused on the mother and daughter. I think the playwright did a great job of adapting this to really dig a little bit deeper into the relationship of any connection that you may possibly have in your life. And it really makes you look at the different perspectives of a lover, a friend, a doctor, even that relationship between a doctor and a patient. It is so intriguing to me because I love relationships as far as digging deep into them. And this script really digs deep. I said to Paige and Bo that a lot of people go, "Oh, Terms of Endearment, it's so sad." It's so sad. And the one thing I've been telling people is the beautiful relationships that evolve. All of them either evolve or they change, or there's no stale relationship that is based within this story. So between Garrett and Aurora, their relationship dynamic changes, I think, like 3 times within the course of the show. And then you have Flap and Emma, whose relationship changes for 2.5 seconds, but it's a very, very dramatic change and heartwarming change, I would think. Because even for 2.5 seconds, I care for Flap, but just 2.5 seconds. That's all Flap gets. So talk to me about how you guys have approached the relationship between Aurora and Emma on stage.
it's so fun to build off Paige and Bo, that energy that they have for each other, because it really just is like builds, it's like a base, and we're just like putting Lego blocks on top of like this relationship they have. It really gives me so much to work for of how Flap feels about Aurora, with how close they are and the way they interact almost daily. Well, daily.
Literally daily.
Literally daily. So it's fun. It's fun to see like this. I have so much to work off of like what Aurora can see Bo as with me and what I can see those two as. So I'm having a lot of fun with it.
There's even a split moment where it's a split second decision that Emma has to make, which is whether to keep arguing with you or going back and forth with you or answering the phone knowing that it's her mother on the other line.
Yeah.
Are there any thoughts that you have in that moment when she chooses to answer the phone?
So far, I've been using it for two things. One as an escape, and two as this is how it's always going to be kind of thing. Because on cue, there she is, and here we are doing the same thing. So I'm just going to skedaddle down the road.
Do you think Flap uses it as an excuse to cheat on Emma?
Of course. Of course. Any excuses and ammunition he can use against her, he's going to do it. So his top one would definitely be her mother.
And this is why we hate Flap.
Yes. Indeed.
Anytime Corinna and I, we can't sit next to each other in rehearsals anymore, because anytime Flap comes on and he says something or he does something, especially that one moment where he's really showing his narcissism, we look at each other, we go, God, we hate Flap. We hate Flap.
The sound effect offset, you guys, with no audience right now, is already like into me. I'll say a line and I'll just hear. I can't wait until I have a full auditorium.
It's going to be, I'm telling you, it's going to be a Fences moment where, I don't know if you've heard us talk about Fences, when John Connor, he played Troy, and he admits to Rose that he's been cheating on her. And there was always this moment in the audience where the audience just went, you know, and I feel like I know exactly which moment where that is going to happen. And I just remember John always waiting for that feeling, because it always made him feel really good, like he did his job as an actor in that moment. So that's definitely something to really push and strive for and look for. It is those moments where the audience is just like, God, I hate you. I hate you. Richard, for you, Garrett is he's a tease with Aurora, wouldn't you say? Yes. At least at the beginning.
Pretty much it is the whole time. But I think part of it is mysticism on his part, is that he can't figure out Aurora. Again, most of the girls he's used to going out with are, 15, 20, 25 years younger than he is. So he pretty much understands what kind of what he's going to be looking for. She's closer to the same age and has quite a few life experiences of her own.
Right.
So he's more, I don't know what I've gotten into here kind of thing, So I think it'd be maybe more of a, let's see how deep the water is on this kind of a relationship on this thing with Aurora, just to kind of like, let's see where she can go with this. I think he's trying to push her too. At the same time, he's trying to figure out. So there's some give and take in a relationship, but I think on his part, I think he's up against a character that's has a lot of backbone that he's not used to having in a relationship with a woman. I think that's probably the key in that relationship, is that he's used to, pretty much being given the environment of what he's gone through all of his life,
Right.
being in control, he's now run up against somebody else who's saying like, no, I'm in control here. Okay.
Right.
So
Very
that makes it
strong-willed
kind of
woman.
like, yeah, whose personality is going to win over this? And it's like, in the end of it, neither one of them does. But I think they come to recognize each other's strengths and how they end up supporting each other going through this. So it takes a real curvy road to get there. Oh my God.
I know it does, and in such a short amount of time. So you're kind of on this roller coaster. And for me, honestly, like I'm always like, I wish this ended differently for Garrett and Aurora. But in the same breath, I love the friendship that they end up building and creating, even though it's probably a little bit, unorthodox.
It's quirky. It's definitely quirky.
But it works for them.
It
He understands her. He's not intimidated by her strong will and her very alpha female being. And at the same time, she's not intimidated by his raunchiness and his approach to things. But I think there's a little bit of compassion that she has and a little bit of empathy that she has for Garrett, in feeling that maybe he had lost something when he had to retire. You know what I'm saying? Like being able to hear his voice I feel like no one's ever asked him for his true, honest self. Other than being the American fucking hero.
Yeah, well, yeah. There is that, there is that.
So
I think you're absolutely correct. I don't think he's ever been in a situation where, in a relationship, anyone came to him and said, "How do you feel?" Right.
And being genuine about it.
Yes.
Yeah. And Aurora she's very genuine about it when she asks him and wants to hear his story, his truth, and his passion. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful relationship, quirky relationship, friendship, all of those words together between Aurora and Garrett.
I think the thing that gets me most about this is that the physicality in the relationship is their real comedy piece. I mean, the encounters that they have together in a physical environment are the parts that everybody just hoots over because it's funny. It's how they do this, how they get there is funny.
It is so funny. It's so funny. I've received a number of comments from people about the little promo video that we had put out, and there's just 1 second where everyone sees you slap each other's butt in the promo. And I got so many messages going, Richard slaps Paige's butt in the show. And I was like, multiple times. So I'm curious to how many people are coming to see the show to see Paige and Rich slap each other's butts, or how many people are coming because they know that he's going to be in swim trunks and a Hawaiian shirt.
Better that than what Will Speakman wore in the last show. I'm telling you that right now, Goldilocks. All right.
Yeah, and if Will is watching this at some point, we tried to get him to do the gold Speedos. He won't do the gold Speedos. Poor Eric. I just, Eric was in Fall of Heaven dealing with Will Speakman and the gold Speedos, and now he's going to be in Terms of Endearment with your swimming trunks and luau shirt. So we'll see if we can scrape him off the floor from laughing. Because he couldn't laugh with Will.
I don't think Eric could have taken 2 shows in a row with some character opposite him wearing gold Speedos. I don't think he could have handled it.
Yeah, he may have cracked. I don't know how he did it every night. I don't know how he did it. Well, I want to thank you both for joining me today for Cast Conversations. It's really good for people to get to understand artists and actors and the process and how we think and what it takes to put on a show. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah.
Be here. Get to the show.
Come see the show. Yes.
In grows, bring your friends, family, best friends.
Bring anyone you have a darling relationship with, or even an enemy or frenemy.
That too.
That too. That is represented there too. So thank you both for being with me and sharing your stories and about your characters and the journey that we've taken together. Hold on tight. I just want to say goodbye to these folks and bye. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for Cast Conversations with Richard Clem and Jacob Reed, who are both in Terms of Endearment. We're so grateful to our sponsors at Lord Fairfax Community College, where we are producing this show at the William H. McCoy Theater. We are pleased with the town of Middletown and all of their support and all of your support surrounding Selah Theater Project and all of the craziness and wonderful creations of theater we do. We hope that you will join us for Terms of Endearment, adapted by Dan Gordon and directed by Muwa, on May 20th through the 22nd and May 27th through the 29th. You can get your tickets online at selahtheaterproject.org/terms and get them now while they're hot. And we want to sell out as many tickets as we possibly can for this beautiful story. It's heartwarming. It's hilarious. And there's a few moments of tears, but not a lot. You'll smile more than you'll cry. We'll see you next time. I wonder who our guest is going to be for next time, but you'll find out soon. We'll see you guys. Bye.